to the show, guys. Hey, I'm Bob K6UDA, and welcome. I think it might be an interesting show. I don't know, maybe some of you guys don't think it would be an interesting show. Maybe you guys have different ideas. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about a little article that was brought to my attention not too long ago. This was off of a Facebook group, the Ham Radio Facebook group, and I saw this article. It was titled "The Uncertain Future of Ham Radio." This was by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Engineers, something like that. I don't know. The IEEE. We're going to talk about that. So they published this article in their journal. We're going to talk about that. But first of all, I would actually like to ask you guys, before we get started here, to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already hit that subscribe button. You know what? If you like the video, thumbs up on this video. Be sure and comment on the video after you've seen it. The guys that are in here right now live, thank you. You guys are rocking it. I would love to have the comments afterwards. Let me know. Do you agree with this? Do you disagree? Do you think that this IEEE is full of crap? Do you think it's right on? I don't know. And share the video, because by you sharing this video, it doesn't screw up the YouTube algorithm. It forces YouTube and Google and Alphabet, parent company, to take notice of the little guys like me and some of the other ham radio creators out there, the small guys. Josh, he doesn't need any help. he's got 200,000 subscribers. It's the little guys like me that need help. Let's see. We are going to have a special guest today. James Hannibal is going to join us because he's kind of an inventor, engineer kind of a guy. So I figured, you know what? Hell, why not? Let's see. First of all, before we get moving here, want to say hi, because you know what? It is Monday and you guys are joining me. Welcome to the den of COVID. I want to say hi to some of you guys. Scott, K0WAV, who I just talked to on Wires X, and Wires X is up. Don Passaic says hello. Let's see, Walter Reeves in the house. Who else is in the house? Chris Townsend from Boise, Idaho, right down the road from me. Well, 2 hours right down the road. But he's in the house. Simon Templar, my brother from VK Land, is in the house. Phil Wormuth from the UK is in the house. Let's see. The Gaming Ham, M7INT in the house. That M is a dead giveaway. Let's switch off here to camera 2 so I can take a look at these. And you guys will notice that, yeah, I'm trying to kind of keep this organized. So I make copious notes. I make outlines and not so much scripts, because I can't follow a script, even if I try. Andy Cowley in the house, my brother from another mother. The Shadow Bear. He's going to have to watch later. He's learning he's 2-hour required wokeness learning seminar. How to stay woke. during K6UDA's live streams. The ham radio dude is in the house. Let's see. And Todd WH6DWF. Man, we have people from, VK land right here at home in Idaho, Hawaii, the UK. This is just a worldwide show. So, with that, let's get into it. I'm gonna bring my my guest in, my special guest here. This is James Hannibal from Quirky QRP.
Hey, Bob.
How you doing, my brother? Oh,
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Are you in Japan today?
No, I'm not.
Because that's what it looks like. Your audio and your video aren't exactly matching up.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, let's jump into today's subject here. I'm gonna put us up. I'm gonna solo you and put you in there for a minute, and I'm gonna go into my shared screen, and I'm gonna bring this up, bring this guy up here, and hopefully, this is the article that we were talking about here. It's in the IEEE standards, or the IEEE, whatever, their newsletter. And there's a big picture of Sterling Mann up there on the deal, and then John Anderson, AJ7M from Marysville, Washington. Don't know who he is, but hey, he's in their deal. And then they go in to talk about their league of hams is basically not joining the ranks of amateur radio. What say you?
That's interesting.
Mr. Hannibal.
Yeah, I haven't read the article yet, so I don't know the details. But the headline is, I think, inaccurate. I think ham radio is on an upswing, not on a downturn.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where they're getting their information from on how it's how ham radio has an uncertain future.
Well, here's really the gist of everything that I got was right up front. When they were talking about the number of U.S. amateur licenses has held at an anemic 1% annual growth for the past few years, with about 7,000 new licenses added for, I have to move this over so I could see it because I got all this other stuff in here. New licenses added for every year of a total of 755,000 in 2018. The FCC doesn't track demographic data of operators, but anecdotally, white males in their 60s and 70s make up much of the population. As these baby boomers age out, the fear is that there are too few young people to sustain the hobby. That's pretty much their big takeaway, or my big takeaway out of this. I don't even know if this is a guy, Julian Pepitone.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, never heard of him, but oh well. You guys could read the article for yourself. Spectrum.io IEEE.org/ham dash radio. Right up there at the screen in the address bar. So if you guys want to pull that up, don't pull that up right now. Uh, don't go away from this. Anyway, right now, 44 people on the stream, and I got to jump back to camera. Jump back to camera 2, and I'm going to add. Oh my lord. Okay, now I need to go back where I can see everything. The pitfalls of live
Yeah.
streaming, live TV. I try to make it like live TV. Anyway, so this is kind of what I wanted to talk to. Now I did just some cursory research here. 41 people on the stream, 25 thumbs up. Hey, that should be 40, my friends. Come on, 40 people. Oh, now 39. Somebody went to go look at the article. So anyway, doing a little bit of just surface research into this IEEE, they have 400,000 members worldwide in 160 countries. More than 60% of their membership is from outside the U.S., and they are made up of engineers, scientists, and what they call allied professionals. The big question here is this an accurate representation? We've heard over the past few years, ham radio is dead, ham radio is dying. Personally, I don't see that. Personally, I see ham radio as thriving and gaining in numbers. I don't know. What do you see?
I agree with you on that. I would say, though, that it would be safer to assume that they're correct and try to continue to innovate on how we promote ham radio to play it safe. But I see ham radio thriving. I see it shifting around on what we're interested in as a whole. Things
Yeah.
going digital. Maybe Morse code isn't as popular as it was 75 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things that are even bringing that back. Soda is making Morse code popularized again. And I know the FT8 is kind of taking the wind out of Morse code right now. But I think with activities such as Soda and POTA, Morse code has a chance to maybe come back and be really popular again. And the whole thing about, I saw in the article, how do we get kids involved? And I think that's important, but at the same time, I don't think it's the demographic that we need to be aiming at, only aiming at, because a lot of people, like you said, are over the age of 40 or 50 in ham radio. Not that we should just target that demographic, but I'm almost 40, and I got my license when I was young. I was in my teens.
Mm-hmm.
And high school came, and I kind of, ham radio took a back seat. I think that's pretty common with kids getting into ham radio. So I think an important aspect to bolster our ranks, or at least maintain our ranks in ham radio, would be to target the group that's just coming out of high school or just coming out of college. Maybe in their late 20s, early 30s, people who now have an income and maybe are looking for a hobby.
Yeah.
I think targeting children is important, because then it's something they can look back on and go, I want to get back into that. So I don't think one or the other is necessarily a solution. I think kind of a shotgun approach to a wide range of ages is important.
I like that. I totally agree with with everything you've said. I think the demographic of ham radio, though, is also changing because of the advancements in technology. Um, you know, back 30, 40 years ago, ham radio was an engineer's sport. It was that the super smart guy, the inventor types. Um, well,
I have a. Speaking to that point, let's see here.
I love it. I love that.
My
That
wife got
is
me the shirt, and I thought it might be appropriate with this topic.
that
So
is that is freaking awesome. I love it. But yeah, no, but seriously, with the advent of the ICOM 705, with I mean KX3s and a lot of the portable stuff is kit based. So a lot of those guys are gonna, a lot of those old guys are going to be. Oh, what is that?
speaking of kit based, I'm not actually sure. I think it does come as a kit. This is a dual band FT8 QRP rig
Wow.
that I'm playing with right now. And you were talking about advancements in technology keeping the hobby alive.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little example of that. A little company called Venus iTech, I think. Um, Josh reviewed another one of their products, a handheld radio,
Mm-hmm.
a while back. And yeah, innovation like that, I think, is what's going to help keep the hobby going.
It does. And you've got a different type of person, or a different type of demographic that's moving into ham radio with, after, I'll say the United States, because, I mean, we got guys from all over the world on here right now, which I think is so cool.
That's awesome.
And those guys, the guys in VK land, the guys in the UK, they're going to have a completely different ham radio experience than we do here in the United States. Different licensing, different requirements, different, in some cases, different bands or different segments of bands. And they have different equipment that comes to them than we get. But we have a demographic that's changed since the FCC dropped the requirement of CW. More people like me, non-technical hams, people that come from outside the science and engineering industries are getting in. We're getting in for various other reasons. I mean, let's take a look at some of them. I mean, I would say, your outdoor enthusiasts are getting into ham radio in huge numbers right now. The hikers, the hunters, boaters. I know in Northern California, they have, it's called the Tevis race. And they have a whole group of horseback riders that are equipping themselves with ham radio. In the off-road segment of society, the side-by-side groups, ATVs, the jeepers, motorcyclists, even racers, off-road and on-road racers. They're getting into radio, and they're exploring new ways to use radio, and a lot of teams, a lot of organizations, and people are getting into ham radio. They're actually considering that as a viable place to get their communication skills and get up their communication game within their own hobbies. The preppers, the emergency preparedness folks, That's a huge thing. And whether or not a lot of the preppers want to get licenses, well, some do, some don't want to be on lists. But you've got other groups, other people that are more into the Aries races, Red Cross thing. That Red Cross now is requiring a lot of their people, or they're encouraging a lot of their new volunteers to get licensed for ham radio, and these are typically non-technical people. Let's see. I want to get your comments on what you think, where ham radio is going or who it's going to.
Well, I do know that there are more people that are not necessarily um, getting into ham radio for the pure radio aspect of it, but to utilize the ham radio technology for the other hobby or project that they're into. Like, for instance, flying drones. If you have a ham radio license, you can use higher power output on your drone controller, either with an amplifier or a separate dedicated system, and fly your drone even further away, or other remote control projects such as that.
Yeah.
So I think that group of people shouldn't be ignored, because they tend to be technically minded, which would be in line with ham radio, I think. And even though they may not be getting into it for the pure radio aspect of the hobby, they could find that they really enjoy it and then stick around and use ham radio for more. And I agree with the whole prepper thing. Yeah, a lot of preppers, the prepper movement is really starting to embrace ham radio, and the people that go off-roading,
Mm-hmm.
the overlander people. I think we need to also focus on not just maintaining our numbers, but also maintaining our bands. We recently, or I don't think it's happened yet, but we're losing a microwave band, right? I forget which band it is, but we're losing one of the microwave bands. They're phasing it out. And I don't want that to continue. I feel like that's a slippery slope, where the FCC is going to feel more pressure to auction off more of our spectrum. And if we're not using it, I mean, they've got every right to go, hey, you guys aren't using this stuff. We're going to put it to better use. So, we have no excuse to complain about losing bands if we're not the ones using them. Like, for instance, bands that could easily be targeted would be like the 33 our access to the 33 centimeter band and the 23 centimeter band, 900 megahertz and 1200 megahertz would be prime real estate if they wanted to open that up to further licensing and cut it out of ham radio use. Right now, like, the 900 megahertz band is unlicensed for everyone else. They can just use it, and that spectrum is getting filled up with a lot of other projects utilizing 900 megahertz now. I know, like, 20 years ago, it was really only popular for, like, cordless phones and baby monitors. But now it's coming back.
Well, okay, as one of the non-technical hams, I have seen, or I've owned radios that do what is it, the 1.2 gigahertz. I had an ICOM 9100 that did that. The problem that I saw, non-technical guy that I am, there wasn't anything going on there. And so when there's not anything going on, you don't use it. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy. Bands
what
are
we need
down,
is more projects.
10 meters sucked, so nobody got on 10 meters, and then it doesn't come back, and all of a sudden, the FCC says, well, there's nobody using it. Let's sell it to UPS.
Right.
What can we do with some of these bands that you're talking about. I mean,
Everyone
you're
says just get on the air, but I think more needs to happen than that, because the FCC is not out there everywhere listening to every band going, oh well, they're not using this much, they're not using that much. They're looking, if they're going to look at all, it's going to be uh, what projects are out there that are utilizing the band and putting it to good use that would convince them to not mess with that band, for instance. So, like the 900 megahertz band and the 1.2 gigahertz band would be great for um, digital modes. Like it is being utilized, it's just not being utilized enough. So there's that mesh network. I can't think of the name right now. Arden, I think. Arden
okay.
Mesh.
Yeah.
That's a great project that's utilizing both of those bands, uh, 23 centimeter, 33 centimeter, and they're even using um, our access on 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz. We have access to, I think it's the bottom edge of the 2.4 gigahertz band, the Wi-Fi band, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also 5.8 gigahertz. And that project is utilizing those frequencies, all of those frequencies. I think even down to 70 centimeters for their mesh network. But we need more than that. We need more projects that that get people's attention and let you utilize it. So like something as popular as FT8 needs to come along and utilize, let's say, the 900 megahertz band so that usage goes through the roof. And then that's really the best thing we can do to secure our bands, is to use them, heavily use them.
Mm-hmm. That, you know what a great idea. If one of these small manufacturers, the Venus Group or whatever, if they came out with an FT8 transceiver that worked on one of those, on the uh, the 800 megahertz band, or so one of these other bands, 1.2 gigahertz, and you had I don't know how much a radio kit like that costs. 200-300
Um,
bucks, something like that.
it's cheap. It's under 200, I think. I think it might even, don't quote me on this, but it might even be under 100. There's several little companies out there now that are making either pre-built or kit form single or dual band FT8 transceivers for very inexpensive, and they're pretty cool. And they're super small and lightweight. And a lot of them from the various companies I've played with, they look like this: metal enclosure, very simple, basically no interface other than maybe a VFO dial. Some of them are locked on a single frequency, such as the FT8 frequency or the JS8 call frequency. Um, I'm not sure FT8 is the solution to preserve those higher frequency bands. I think maybe taking some other projects that are more practical for those frequencies, like for instance, APRS. APRS is widely used, and one of the fun things to do with APRS is beaconing through the International Space Station digipeater.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really fun. I've done that. I've showed people that. The problem is you have to use this beam antenna, that's this Yagi, that is not super portable, especially when it's deployed. And I don't know if you've heard of like a Spot device, Spot GPS satellite tracker. You ever heard of that product?
Oh
Or
yeah.
the Garmin
Yes.
InReach?
Yeah.
There's nothing special about those other than the frequency they operate on. They're
Mm-hmm.
operating on a much higher frequency, up in the low to mid gigahertz range. And we have access to frequencies near those frequencies. And those products only transmit like 1 watt. So it's not rocket science to realize that you could relatively easily have a digipeater on one of those CubeSats
Mm-hmm.
that they're putting up. There's APRS CubeSat projects every couple years. They go up semi-regularly. And it just takes someone doing it to get a digipeater up on, I don't think they can do 900 megahertz because I think there's some restrictions on space communications on that band. But I mean, why not change that? Why not allow that? You know, just because there's a rule doesn't mean the rule can't change. We've been changing rules in ham radio since the beginning of ham radio. I mean, anyone can go look up on Wikipedia the all the changes that have taken place, all the rules that have changed, all the licensing changes that have taken place. We've gained bands, we've lost bands over and over again over, like 100 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's nothing new to change the rules. And I think we should be utilizing those frequencies for more ham radio space comms like an APRS digipeater, because then you could have initially it would be just a handheld. So there's like a Linko handheld. I think there's an ICOM. Is there an ICOM handheld that does 1.2 gigahertz?
Oh, there is?
I think there's an Alinco. They may, they may have discontinued it. But that's what I'm worried about is these manufacturers discontinuing products that support these already underutilized bands. We need more projects out there.
Well, bands as simple as a 220. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That could be huge if manufacturers would support it. And I guess the manufacturers won't support it because they don't see the market for it, and it's the self-fulfilling prophecy. Because
it's up to us.
In the age of microprocessors, we're not going out and we're not going to build our crystal radio for the 220 band to activate the 220 band. We got to get that share from the people who have the know-how and can program this stuff.
So what we need to be doing as hams is coming up with better projects that are going to utilize these underprivileged bands and show the manufacturers that, hey, there's a market for this. And then they would come out with the hardware for it. We see it time and time again. You look at the IC705. That product exists because of the demand for that kind of product that does those things.
That product exists because of the huge success of the Elecraft KX3.
Yeah.
It was the groundbreaker. Nobody had ever, before the KX3 came out, no manufacturer had ever seriously considered building a QRP radio. And then Elecraft came out and the whole sport of SOTA started to get popular, and RVers and portable backpackers and and guys that wanted to do man portable and everything else kind of started to spring up. And now we have an ICOM 705 that took that idea of that KX3 and further brought that into, okay, here's a 5-watt radio, but everybody was adding on all this stuff to a KX3. We're going to stuff it inside the box. And we're going to put an HT battery on it. So because everybody's got an HT on their belt, well, you could swap your batteries back and forth and get the same batteries. And
I love that idea. Beautiful. That was really great. That was great of them to do that. That was really cool.
It was. I want to get to a couple of comments. One from, and let's see if I can't make this thing a little bit bigger and move it to where people could see it. Dratch, the license fees are going to cause quite a few not to bother getting licensed. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I look at GMRS licenses and they were $70 for a license, no test. Last year I did a lookup on it, and there was like 100,000 GMRS licenses that had been issued in the United States. And I would say most of them went to municipalities. And they were using them, for their Department of Public Works or whatever. Those guys were talking to each other, on the side of the road, closing off sections of roadway, I guess. Who knows? But I think that's comparing apples to oranges. This is more of a hobby unto itself rather than the hobby that augments another hobby or activity. So I think you're still going to have enough people that'll take the test, that will pay $35, not $70. I agree. If it was $70, that might kill quite a bit. But at 35, I think people that are still on that very curious side will possibly, I'm hoping that they'll still at least sign up one time and then figure out if they like it or not.
Yeah, I just hope that it's not a slippery slope and the fees continue to climb.
Yeah.
It's kind of opening a floodgate. I mean, when I got my license, I had to pay, and I had to every 10 years I had to, I forget what the fee. I think the fee was $10 back then. $10 every 10 years. And I was okay with that, but I was really into technology at the time. So I feel like for those that might be on the fence or are just want to get into it for the prepping or for some other project they want to work on, maybe it's kind of a deterrent for some. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of people that are still going to get their license, and $35 isn't a big deal. And for me, who has a license, who's invested in the hobby, I love the hobby, I'll pay. Frankly, I'd probably pay anything they charged.
And that's the thing. That's the difference.
But that's not sustainable.
You and I are invested in the hobby. We're invested in ham radio. We both have a love of ham radio. We're going to pay that money. Now, I get it. There's people that don't make squat. They're struggling. And and I guess if you have a choice between $35 for a ham radio license over here and putting food on the table over here, food on the table is going to win every single time. But speaking of food on the table, today, lunch and ham radio, my gas station sushi. This
nice.
is left over from the other night. So I will, I'm going to have a piece.
I'm having a bagel right now.
Isn't that awesome? That's, sorry for the dead air, guys.
Yeah.
Both eating at the same time.
I'm going to have to check my teeth.
I don't care. Bad hair, I don't care. Let's see. Let me get everything back up here. Now we're back. Great. Okay. Let's get a few more comments. And guys, remember, if you have a comment that you really want to get on the air, super chat. A $1 super chat gets you to the front of the line. Otherwise, I'm just trying to scroll through these things, trying to figure out anything that might catch my eye. Simon Templar from VK Land. He says they pay Australian $54 a year for a ham radio license.
That's rough.
That's rough. But guys like Simon are invested in the hobby. They'll pay it until they can't afford to pay for food. And then food wins. Now,
And it's unfortunate, they're by having prices like that and us adding prices back, um, we're potentially cutting out people who have every right and deserve to have access to ham radio.
mm-hmm,
And maybe it's a college kid that hasn't gotten his first job yet, but he's into backpacking. Now that kid's not going to go out in the woods with a ham radio. He's going to go out without a ham radio, and unfortunately, he might make the news. Whereas
yeah,
if he could have afforded just the Baofeng, right, instead of the Baofeng plus the license fee, which deterred him from getting into the hobby.
yes,
It's things like that. It's it's cutting a lot of people out just from the hobby just because they can't afford or they're concerned about affording getting into it.
sure.
And I don't see why we're charging the 35. It's $35, right?
It's $35, and Marlon Thompson here, he says, let's not forget that it's for a 10-year license, so it's more like $3.50 a year for the $35 license. And yes, Marlon, when you amortize it out, yes, but people that are getting in for the very first time they are looking at the expense. $35 for the Baofeng, $35 for the privilege of using the Baofeng or pressing the button seems it's a lot higher. They don't care about 10 years down the road. They're thinking about, what am I into today? What is my interest right this very minute?
Yeah, and my confusion with it is, okay, so we went from when I got my license, it was $10 plus the test fee, right? And then $10 every 10 years after that. That made sense at the time because they were doing paper. They would mail you a paper license. Okay? There was a person who had to handle all that, or people that had to handle all that paperwork. That made sense.
Yes.
Paper's not free, labor's not free. So then we went to paperless, right? So they just got rid of the $10 fee. That also made sense. The FCC is raking in huge bucks from telecommunications industry is going through the roof. There's so many businesses that are utilizing Spectrum. It's outrageous how much. I'm surprised we can even communicate with all the RF that's being pumped out. I'm surprised there isn't even more interference. But anyways, they're getting a ton of money. Why do they need our little ham radio money, which is a small group? And we're going through the same FCC system to register. The system that's already well funded from all the other FCC licenses out there, just billions of dollars.
Yes.
So none of that makes sense to me. We're very underutilizing a system with how many hams are in the United States?
There's
is it 300,000?
In the United States, it's about 750,000, 800,000.
Okay, 750. I mean, that's not a lot of people.
No.
When you factor in the percentage of the population. So why did we go from it made sense to not charge because we're not utilizing any paper and really not tasking their network to all of a sudden we have to charge you now because a clerical rule that we found this clerical rule that says we have to charge you because it says so. But they haven't given a legitimate reason. I don't think they've given a legitimate reason as to why we're being charged. And I think that's my biggest beef with it, is that it doesn't seem justified. If there was justification for it, like if they were going to send me a nice, pretty license in the mail, and there's some dude that has to physically handle paperwork and do something, that would make sense. But it's all automated through the system, and there's very little human interaction going on. So where's the money going?
Yeah.
What's the money for?
I agree. You get no argument out of me for that.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. The fact of the matter is, yeah, you don't even get a license sent to you in the mail. You get to print your own license. So you're using your own paper. Their system is up. It's running. it does its thing no matter whether whether uh, 10,000 of us a year get on it and do something or not. That system is running, and it requires next to no human interaction, no labor, no extra cost incurred on the part of the FCC, except possibly um, the vanity license program.
Sure. So
That might,
charge those people.
yeah,
Which
exactly.
I think they are going to do that. I think you're going to be
They
charged
are
a fee every time you change your license. If you were
35
to change it,
$35 to change your license.
yeah.
Wow, 78 people on the stream, 55 thumbs up. Thank you guys. That is freaking awesome. Let's see. Let's see. Simon says a plastic license like a driver's license would be nice. It would be nice, but it ain't gonna happen.
No. Oh, there is one you can get on Amazon.
Oh, I got one,
I got
and I
one as
don't
a
have my
gift.
wallet. Yes.
If you look up on Amazon, ham radio license or plastic license. I forget what the keyword would be. It looks neat.
Yeah.
It comes in like a plastic holder, plastic clear case with a chain. Might be nice if you're going to be operating in a park where, someone's going to think, what's that guy doing?
Yes. Scott says, or if they would actually do anything in the form of enforcement. Well,
Right.
I look at that two ways. Number one, it's like government, back off. I don't want the government in my business anymore. A lot of things that they do are unconstitutional from the get-go. And I don't even want to go there. Just don't even want to. I don't even want to start down that road right now. But
I agree with you.
The other things that we can do, I don't know what. I want to ask you guys out there, what do you think we can do to encourage ham radio to the newer generations? Is ham radio on its way out? Is it gonna die? Is it here to stay? Is it growing? What do you guys think? Let's hear from you. Let's see. I started with a barfing. I started with a barfing. Now I have two icons.
Good.
Yeah. Let's see. TH says, good day from Washington, D.C. Oh, I hope this isn't Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Have you seen that? You haven't.
No.
You're going to have to look up Let's Go, Brandon, and find out the meaning of Let's Go, Brandon.
I'm almost scared to look that up, but I'll check that out.
It's growing legs as we speak. It is cool. Let's see. From Davy Crockett. Pota rocks. Yep. Yes, it does. And I'm not seeing anything else. Let's see. 12:50. Man, we might even actually get out of here on the hour like we're supposed to. So, we've got 10 minutes left, my friend. I'm going to hit the solo on you. And what are you working on?
Well, I'm, always building more stuff. Always building more Quickie QRP stuff. excuse me. Some of the projects I'm working on is the upcoming yo-yo tenna. Excuse me, which will be a multi-band adjustable length dipole for HF. And then I'm also working on another antenna that's a smaller end-fed multi-band retractable antenna, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll see if that comes out by the end of this year or not. I'm so swamped with trying to get slink tennas and zip tennas built that it's really preventing me from innovating. I'm just working in the sweatshop.
I hear you. I hear you. But it's always so cool to see the new and inventive things that you're coming up with for ham radio. Just incredible. I love it. And I need to take a quick second here because we have a super chat from Chris Townsend. Let's see, Chris. Chris says, new technologies and innovation is great with furthering ham radio, but we also need to be mindful of technologies that would be vulnerable to failure in the event of natural disasters. From K7 K7SVX. So yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, let's talk about. Let me go back to camera. Let me go back to camera 2. Add you. I have to figure out a better way to do that. I have to figure out a way to get you back into, or put us both back on the screen in one button push.
Yeah,
I know I can. Chris made a really good point there, and ham radio, ham radio has been there and has done things, has succeeded where AT&T FirstNet let down the people of Paradise in the Paradise Fire, and absolutely hundreds of people died, or a lot of people actually died. They couldn't get out because the state of California bought in to the whole thing of AT&T FirstNet is fail-proof, can't go down, and I would say things like the Iridium networks, the Garmin GPS networks, those things can all go down and can leave you without your technology. Ham radio being what is it? There's no central point of contact. There's nothing in between. It is between you and I, or in the case of a repeater, yeah, but there's always another repeater that you could jump to. It's kind of like the web. The web isn't all going down. You could take out certain parts. You could silence one guy over here, but then he could jump back on over here and make new pathways. Got another super chat. I need to acknowledge here. Dylan, thank you for the super chat from Dylan. And do you have a comment in there, Dylan? I'm not seeing anything. Not seeing a comment. Ooh, look at that. That worked. That brought us right back.
Yeah, that went straight back.
That
Well,
one's
I
pretty
have
bad.
something to show you that
Okay.
kind of has to do with the previous super chat comment about things going down.
You're on solo, my friend. It's all you.
So this is a little transceiver that I've been playing with. It's called the company name is Prepcom. It's the DMX40,
Hmm.
and I'm reviewing it. Actually, I have reviewed it. I wrote the article already. Um, it's an HF radio, 40-meter band, and it has a full Morse code encoder decoder built into it. No computer necessary. You just plug in a USB keyboard right there, and your headphones up here. This is an SMA jack. I have a mini dummy load on it right now,
Uh-huh. Very, very cool.
and it's Morse code. So as far as the grid being down and utilizing reliable communications, obviously HF is great for when the internet goes down. But on top of that, Morse code is great because even if the band conditions are poor, you can most likely communicate with someone. And this thing decodes really well. Not as great as the human ear necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but pretty close. Better than anything else I've tried. I've tried most of the other products out there that decode Morse code, and most have not done very well, and the software out there. And it's a great way to get into Morse code, I think, because you just get on the air. That's the best part. So I learned Morse code when I was a teen, when I first got my ham license. I didn't learn it because I needed to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
I just, learned it. But high school hit and I stopped doing it and I lost it. I lost my Morse code skills.
Well, I
And
never got them.
yeah, and this is great for people who want to who see soda as a fun activity and know that voice can be very problematic and difficult when the band
Oh, yeah.
conditions are poor. It can be such a letdown sometimes. You get up there, you set everything up, even with a great antenna. If the bands aren't cooperating, voice can be very difficult to operate. And you just hiked up a mountain and then you don't get to play radio essentially.
So
So this is
let me ask you a question about that because I was looking at that. Um, I was looking at getting one of those
mhm.
and checking out because my CW skills are weak, but I would still like to be able to do CW. I never can find the time to really sit down, buckle down, and learn it, and then keep my skills up. I picked up some skills, and then I get busy with other aspects of life or whatever.
I'm in the same boat.
So that is very interesting to me. If it is, how is it on the decode?
Really good. I was actually surprised. Unless it's a really, really weak signal, it does surprisingly good. And people have complained about it, but that's mostly because just like any radio, you have to learn its ins and outs, and you got to get good at dialing in the incoming signal. If you're not really on frequency, it may not decode as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's some videos out there on YouTube, I believe, showing it, and I liked it so much. Now, full disclosure, I was sent this for free, and to do a review, but I liked it so much I bought a second one.
Really?
Yeah, and I actually loaned that one out to Josh. He's had it for the summer, and we'll see what he thinks. He's doing a good deep dive on it, I think.
Okay.
And hopefully, he and I are going to try to do some two-way comms between both of them. And you can also hook it up to any other HF radio. So
That was going to be
the
my next question. Was what
those
if I
two,
want to go on 20 meters?
yep, those two ports there, those two audio jacks, let you link it up to the key in out of your radio, and
Mm-hmm.
also the audio input. So you just take the headphone jack out of your radio and it goes into the audio input on here. And then you connect the key jack on here to the key jack on your radio.
Okay.
And then you just switch it over to I think they call it external mode. So then it stops putting RF out of the SMA here, and then it purely goes encode decode externally to any other radio that has the same abilities.
Very
abilities as in it just needs a headphone jack and a keyer jack, really. And the radio doesn't know that it's doing this versus you doing a straight key with headphones. It's completely supplementing your hand on the key and your ear listening to the code. Now, my goal is to learn code by being on and just listening. So I'm watching it decode, right? But I'm listening at the same time. So I'm hearing the code come in and seeing the decode. So I'm hoping that I'll put 2 and 2 together. There's plenty of software out there that's what it does, except you're not actually on the air, right? You're just listening to a fake conversation. There's an app out there that'll even read you the news in Morse code. I forget what it's called. It's on the App Store. And you can just listen to the news coming in, but you're not really playing ham radio, right? So I like this because what little time I have to actually play ham radio on the air, I'm actually on the air, not listening to a recording, not pretending to be on the air. I'm really on the air. And then when I feel comfortable, I can switch over to a straight key or some paddles. And I didn't spend that last 3 months, 6 months, however long it takes me. It could take me a long time. I'm not that smart to learn Morse code. Instead of, I could have hundreds of contacts in that period using this during the learning process instead of no contacts during the learning process.
Yeah, and have fun, and it makes you. I have had this. I have spouted this off from day one. Once you are invested in this hobby, then you want more and more and more. If you're not invested in it, I have not dealt with, but I've heard these guys that say, "Oh, you shouldn't be on the air until you can master all this stuff and you understand everything and you've studied it for eons and eons." And I say, absolutely not. Get on the air. Whether you're working with a control operator or you go out and get your license, get on the air, have fun, buy that $35 radio so you're not really invested in the hobby until you figure out that you're having fun. And once you figure out how much fun you're having, you're going to then go, you know what? The $35 radio isn't enough. I want the $150 radio, or I want this beautiful display on this radio. Or I want, my 705, I want to try that. And just like with that radio, you'll never want to do CW unless you find out how fun CW is.
Yeah, and it is like $300. This is not a inexpensive, I'm going to try out Morse code. You really need to know that you want to do it.
Right.
Maybe experience other people doing Morse code at a POTA or SOTA activation. I wouldn't recommend someone just buy it because they think Morse code could be fun. You should have some experiences first, seeing other people having fun. Watch some YouTube videos maybe, because there's plenty of SOTA and POTA videos out there that show you how much fun it can be. And Morse code just gives you that edge for POTA and SOTA activations, especially SOTA activations, where you're going to make all the contacts you need because the band conditions are almost irrelevant. If you post that you're going to be up there, you're going to make contacts.
True. I remember doing a SOTA activation with a couple of buddies, and we kind of split it up. And one guy took VHF, UHF. One guy said, I'm going to do CW. I said, I'm doing phone. The UHF, VHF guy, he made, I think, 6 or 7 contacts on the local repeater and on 652. The guy working CW, he made like 20 some odd contacts, and I made 1.
Yeah. And sometimes you make none. I've been there, haul my gear out there, get everything ready, and then nothing. No one hears me. I mean, and that's the other thing. Like there's people on the air.
Oh yeah.
But they're running power, or at least 100 watts. But you're down in the mud with 5 watts and maybe a compromised antenna because you're trying to be lightweight, going up the hill, and it just kills voice. You need really good conditions for voice to be really effective. And like, what was it? 7 years ago, the last time the bands were up, it was great. I mean, I had this little handheld HF radio and a whip antenna and a tape measure counterpoise, and I was making contacts all over the world on voice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that was optimum conditions, like the peak. Okay? And if you don't want to only operate during the peak of the solar cycle on QRP voice with a compromised antenna, it's a good idea to get into code. And here, I'll go. Oh, you go ahead and read that comment.
This is great. Insurance lady. So what's the replacement cost estimate of all your electronics gear? Awkward moment when your wife looks at you waiting to hear the real answer.
That's trouble.
Marlon, thank you for that. That was freaking awesome.
Oh, man. That's a sticky situation to be in. Let me just show you real quick. I'm going to turn it on.
Okay.
Let's see if I get lined up here. And then, the whole screen text will flow as you're decoding.
Mm-hmm.
And it even has a sending buffer. So when you're typing, it's going to send at the speed you set it at, but typically you'll type faster than the speed it's sending. So you're buffering ahead of it transmitting, and you can edit the buffer until it reaches the transmit point. So if you typo, you can hit the backspace on the keyboard a couple times, fix your sentence before it transmits live.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. And when you're using the keyboard, you tend to hit the wrong key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really fun, and I hope more products like this come out. It's products like this that are innovating old, antiquated technology that some people, laugh at. Like, oh, Morse code. That's Grandpa's technology, but it works, and it's this kind of product that's going to keep Morse code alive.
And I'll tell you what, the military still uses Morse code.
Yeah.
There's a reason. There's a reason they do.
Doesn't the Air Force still have a Morse code training program? I feel like I read that somewhere.
Yeah, they do. It's still, when you go to radio operator school, you go through a Morse code class, and you learn Morse code. I love that little radio. I almost bought one the last time you and I talked, and you showed it to me for the first time.
Oh, did I show it to you already? Oh, okay.
You did show it to me, but no, that's great. And I almost bought it, and I thought, I just can't afford it right now. $350. It was a lot of money. And I wanted it more for the Morse code training. I always figured, man, if I could hook that up to whatever else I'm using and have it be a really good coder, encoder, or decoder, encoder.
Yeah.
that would help me out in the interim. And then if it would help me learn Morse code, man, that would be just freaking awesome. Because I would
And it's made
love.
in Idaho. It's made in Idaho.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Sandpoint, Idaho, northern Idaho. Um,
Okay.
I grew up there, and I happened to be in the area on vacation visiting family, and I contacted the guy, and I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be in the area. How about we stop by and have a chat?" So I went to his house where he has these things built by hand, and we
Mm-hmm.
sat down and chatted for a long time. It was really cool to see the operation in progress for something made in America. Pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, very, very cool.
I hope
You
more of
know
that
what?
stuff comes out.
I think I might have emailed the guy at one point, and I might have found. Yeah, I think I did mention something about I had just moved to Idaho. So very
Well,
cool.
Bob, if he doesn't get back to you about doing a review when Josh is done playing with the one I loaned him, would you like to try it out?
Absolutely,
Send it to you.
absolutely.
You can
Yeah,
borrow it and see if you like it, and then maybe it's something you'd like to get for yourself if you find it useful.
yeah, yeah.
Make for a great review too, I think.
I think if if I played with it, and there's got to be a ton of guys just like me. Um, I would love to learn CW. I would love to get proficient. I just don't have the time to spend an hour or two every single day, and you have to do it every single day. I get it. Um, I
I
get there's no shortcuts for the hard work or for the work you got to put in.
I think of it like the old days of learning Morse code, where you you had an LP, right? You had a record that was just recorded Morse code conversations, and you would listen to it, or a tape, or a CD, and now it's digital, right? But that's still a thing, like just listening to conversations to build your proficiency at decoding in your head. This is the same thing. You're listening to conversations on the air. You don't even have to participate. You can just watch a conversation happening, and it gets you used to the flow of the QSO with Morse code and the abbreviations that are used, and the shorthand, the Q codes,
Yeah.
and then you can jump in and play without as much fear, like mic fright, right? I think it's a great option for that.
Yeah.
Instead of just listening to a cassette tape. Geez, that dates me. Of a Morse code
An
conversation,
8-track.
8-track, right? Yeah, so I think it's a great option for that for hams like you and I that are already invested in the hobby. Not necessarily for a beginner. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you just bought a Baofeng, this is probably not the next radio for you. But I hope it's the start of something bigger. I hope it's the start of more products that are emphasizing Morse code again. Because the KX2, for instance, KX2, KX3, they got a built-in decoder, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no encoder. Why not? Why not?
Well, because they want to sell a key. They got
Sure,
the
but they
key.
they
I
should sell the key and the keyboard.
Yes, yes. I I agree. And you know what? All these things kind of go back to this whole thing. How do we get more people invested in ham radio? How do we get people to get interested in ham radio? And I'll tell you what, um, I think the biggest thing that brings me back to um, is this article, um, is it on the mark or is it not on the mark, is the fact of I looked no further than the ham radio crash course with over 200,000 subscribers. No, we're not just talking casual viewers. We're talking people that have enough interest in it to hit that subscribe button. That's huge. You know, that's
Yeah.
one channel. And then you've got, you got Jason on Ham Radio 2.0 with close to 100,000, Dave Kassler with close to 100,000. And then, you know, yeah, you got guys like me back in the 30s, but that's 30,000
That's a lot.
subscribers
That's nothing
for
to laugh at.
for a for a such a niche little market.
And I love your show. I think your show is great. I think you deserve as many subscribers as Josh. Honestly, it
Well, thank
the
you.
two of you are like the main shows I watch, and I watch Ham Radio 2.0 also, and some of the other guys. My biggest problem is having enough time to watch all of you.
Yeah,
Luckily, I can put it on while I'm building. That's when I really get to catch up on shows on these Ham Radio YouTube shows is when I'm building products. So I think your show, Josh's show, all these shows, I think are really helping maintain the hobby. And that article, even though I don't agree with most of what it says and the doom and gloom, I feel like if we don't take it seriously, then that's what'll happen. We have to maintain our hobby. There are people that say, "Oh, it's fine. Everything's fine, going to be fine." It's like, well, yeah, it'll be fine if we do something about it. If we don't do anything, it could go into decline. And I think some of the things that argue for that article being relevant as a cautionary tale are our bands being slowly taken away, and they wouldn't do that if the band wasn't in decline. So we have to be careful that, yes, I think our numbers are good, and these YouTube channels are really helping bring people in and maintain the hobby. But we should be wary of we can't let it up. We have to, keep getting kids involved, keep getting every age group involved.
I agree.
It's not something to ignore.
And I wholeheartedly think that we should continue to try to invest. Let's call them the outside people, the people like me that come from those non-technical backgrounds, that I don't care whether you get interested in it at 20 years old or 50 years old. It's bring those people in that are into horseback riding on the trails, or that are into motorcycles or off-road vehicles, or the preppers. I say, and to the preppers, I will say this to you. If you are one of the people who say, I don't want to be on a government list, unless you live in the woods, and you wouldn't even be on this channel watching this show because you wouldn't have the internet, you're already on a list. You're already on enough government lists. Nobody
if you
cares.
Have a computer,
Nobody
if you have
cares
a computer or a cell phone,
that you are enjoying the sport of ham radio, because really functionally that's kind of where we're at. It's the sport and the activity of ham radio. The fact that it could come in as a crucial part of your survival post SHFT is a bonus. I call that the big bonus. But if you bought your 4-pack of Bowfangs and you put them away for SHFT, and you're not going to get licensed, and you're not going to press the PTT right now because you don't want to be on the list, when it comes time to do it, you're not gonna know how. And yes, you'll know how to press the button, but it is programming those frequencies, finding out that that there is some kind of a market or a swap net or a swap or something going on 10 miles down the road, and you need to coordinate with people to get there, or trading or whatever, and now you can't figure out how to get the Bofang out of, or the barfing out of out of memory mode into the VFO, and how to switch the frequency on the VFO and lock in a PL tone and a code, because you've never done it and you don't practice it. It's a perishable skill, like your firearms, like cooking, like anything else. It's a perishable skill. So, off my soapbox again. Man, we have been going for almost an hour and a half. And James, I really want to thank you for joining us.
No problem.
We have 75 people on the stream, 84 thumbs up. I want to thank you guys for that. We'll take a few more. We'll just take a few more little comments here. And let's see. Kent Holford, one of my D-Star buddies, said the Army stopped enrolling students in the Morse code course since it no longer has a requirement to train soldiers. And Kent is an old Army officer, so he should know. Let's see. GL KM6LSO says hello from Mather, California 73. Let's see. MR Rice. Josh, Bob, and Jason are the best ones that I have found so far. MR Rice, thank you. Let's see. Bob needs the boom. Coffee and ham radio. Bob needs the boom. Well, I've got the boom over here, but I'm actually using this one, and I'm looking for a better alternative. This was a cheap little guy, but I always found out if I turned this way or turned over here, then this mic went dead. So not using it today. This, my friends, it's kind of like ham radio. You're constantly trying to improve things, clean things up, make it look like TV, or and that's really the goal. Is if this can look like freaking TV, it would be awesome. Let's see. MR Rice also says kids are the only hope for ham radio to have a future. Boys and Girl Scouts are the key, and that's a big thing. I know during this is K6UDA back there. I know during field day, I ran a GOTA station at our field day this year, and a bunch of scouts came in. It was beautiful. These kids were fired up. They got on the air. They had a good time, and that is a huge, huge thing in just introducing ham radio to kids. And,
absolutely.
Great thing. Chris Townsend. Oh, crap.
Can't read that.
I can't read it.
Yeah, I'm an Eagle Scout. And my dad did JOTA. He set up a JOTA thing almost every year. It was great. Got a lot of kids into it, and some of them even stuck with it.
Yeah. So Marlon Thompson says, mount the boom mic to a hard hat.
There's a look.
I know. This mic sucks. And guys, I have a new solution that's coming. Actually, it should be coming today. I will be using next week. I'll be using my Rode Wireless into another little box or a pigtail that I'm plugging into the USB, because the mics for this studio setup for the live setup have to be USB. So the Rode is not a USB device, but I'm going to put the receiver on USB. Hopefully that'll give me studio quality sound next week. And let's see, Garrett, my the man who was the son I never had. As a newbie to ham radio and the community, I agree with Bob. Young people need to get involved in ham radio. And I've done my best to get my son Garrett involved in ham radio. Arranged his first radio. He now has a Yaesu FT70. And Garrett, I know you're listening, you need to get that thing programmed onto one of the local Fusion repeaters. Send me a text. I will fire up Wires X over here, and we need to talk on the radio. And he's got a new call sign, and I forget what it was. He got himself a vanity call. I guess he paid an extra $35 for it. I don't know. Yeah. Garrett, did you pay an extra $35 for the vanity call?
I'm not sure that's gone into effect yet.
Oh, that hasn't. That's true.
I'm not sure. Are people paying $35 for anything yet?
I don't think that goes into effect until next year.
Yeah.
Interesting. And,
so now's the time.
And my renewal is coming up. So I will let you guys know. I will go on and do a show about how to renew your freaking license. I guess it's got to be simple as hell. Now it's got to be like just clicking a few buttons.
I don't know.
Let's see. Garrett says he already has his radio programmed, and he was talking to Lance the other day, or he heard Lance. Lance is the guy who owns our local repeater here in Twin Falls. Let's see. Ham radio from Todd. Ham radio is more honest than nightly news, and it's what's causing the surge in ham radio today. And that very well could be because people trust me more than they trust the NBC nightly news.
Maybe not some of the 80 meter frequencies, the conversations that...
Maybe not. Maybe not. And there's my son's call, N7GRS.
Cool.
Vanity calls are free right now. $35 does not go into effect until sometime in 2022. So my advice is everybody who's even thought of getting a ham radio license, get it this year. Run right out and get your license now. It'll be free and you won't have to pay a thing for 10 years.
My concern is, I got a bunch of people to get their licenses a decade ago, and they're not even really into it. It's just they'll use it when we go on our big yearly camping trip and things like that, adventures, but they are not into ham radio. It's a tool, and they use it when it's necessary to what they're doing. And I see a real problem with people like that just not renewing.
Yeah.
Because they weren't paying. They weren't paying. I even did the renewal for them. I got online and did the free renewal for them, renewed their license for my brothers. Now they got to pay $35. I feel like I'm going to really have to convince them now to renew because they're not going to want to pay the $35 because they're not really into it.
They're not invested in the hobby itself.
Yeah. And I feel like that's going to really be a problem.
They haven't seen the real outside benefit of it. The SHFT benefit, because we're comfortable. We're still a very comfortable society. People that don't want to starve to death aren't starving to death in this country. But I think that is quickly coming to an end. We will see. I don't know.
Hope not.
There's been a lot of doom and gloom before. Um, and it's never panned out. And I know in my own world, I've always thought, oh, this is it. This is what's going to collapse it. This is coming down. What was it? Y2K. Uh, Korea was going to drop bombs on us. Everything was going to happen, but we are so close. All the time we're close, but there are so many different things that can happen right now that can topple us over the edge, that having your license, having your radios in order, and having your life in order really is going to be a huge benefit.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
until you live through a natural disaster, and hopefully live through a natural disaster, and come to the realization, man, I really wish I had a ham radio like Uncle so and so did, because I had no communications for 4 days or a week or whatever the case may be, like the hurricanes or another major earthquake on the West Coast, not potentially, likely, just when, who knows. Um, so a lot of people don't experience that until it's too late. They don't, you know, they don't
yeah,
know that it's going to be useful to them down the road. I'm a different case because I grew up in Guam, where we had like typhoons with 200-mile-an-hour winds every year, 8.2 earthquake, threat of tsunami. It's like when you grow up with it, you realize the utilitarian purpose of, backup power, food supplies, water source, communications, and then the most important is the skills. Like all that stuff is useless if you can't, you know, manage your food supplies and ration it properly and properly treat and care for your water and operate the radio that you have, not just have it sitting in the box. And then when you need to use it, you don't know what you're doing.
yep,
So it's unfortunate that most people don't come to that realization until they experience something bad.
yes. Okay, well, now it has officially been an hour and a half for our
Hour and
lunch
a half.
hour.
Wow.
Oof, hang on here. Wow, that was Marv from the old country, and
The old country.
from the old country. He splits his time between Montana and Auburn,
Okay.
so he's in both places. And it looks like he's in Montana right now because it said he was 182 miles away. Anyway, lunch hour is over. So I want to thank you for joining me. And I'm going to run back over to.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And anytime you want to come on, you've got the link. You guys have the link. I can have other guests on. So, you know what? I'm going to jump over to camera one and my thank you, my Patreon screen here. Guys, I want to thank everybody for showing up, for hanging in for an hour and a half. This has been a long lunch. It has been a long gas station sushi lunch. So, let's see here. I had a couple of things that I needed to run through here. Let's see. Yep. Let me get in here. Yep. Hey, again, I want to thank my patrons who are the backbone of this channel. You guys are the ones that really support me, and you make it worth it. I love making the videos for you guys. Love making the videos for all of you. But please consider being a patron of mine, supporting the channel. I want to thank James Hannibal from Quirky QRP for showing up and sticking with me for an hour and a half. I want to remind you guys, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Like this video if you do. Leave a comment after the show, and please, in those comments, let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with on here. And if you have show ideas, leave them in the comments. I'm looking for some really interesting things to do with the show. And be sure and share this video and my other videos with the other ham community or other people in your ham community. That'll help us grow, and that defeats the YouTube algorithm where I'm not favorite child right now. Anyway, guys, let's go, Brandon. I'm Bob, K6UDA, and I'm out of here 7-3.